This week, the Garage with Dennis is going to take a look at the 2014 Acura Rdx. All new and redesigned for 2014, this little SUV proves to have more than one surprise. Let's take a look at the mechanics first. Probably the biggest surprise when it comes to the mechanics of the brand new Rdx is the addition of a V6 engine. The original version was powered by a turbocharged 4-cylinder, now replaced by a 3.5-liter single overhead cam 24-valve V6, pushing out 273 horsepower. That's backed by an 8-speed automatic transmission with paddle shifts, and of course, the one thing that is significantly different is the new all-wheel drive system. What I mean by significantly different is now it is not equipped with the SH or super handling system Acura has made famous in both the RL and TL. This intelligent system pushes about 80% of the power to the front normally and can't push power to the rear wheels when it's needed. It also is backed up by, of course, ABS brakes, dynamic stability control, and a bevy of support features that'll make sure you're safe on the road. Before we take a look inside and take the little Rdx for a drive, one thing I do want to have you take a look at is the difference in lines and look versus the previous generation. The first generation of the Rdx had angular lines and very sharp body edges, whereas the new 2014 model takes a softer approach and maybe broadening its appeal to buyers out there looking for a small luxury SUV. The standard power liftgate on the Rdx with Tech package will certainly help its new owner load and unload small packages. Cargo space is just over 8.5 cubic feet. Beyond the cargo dimensions of the little Rdx, one thing I have to make mention, I took the front seat and actually put it in a position that was comfortable for someone my size, over 6'2". Now in the back seat you can see even with that seat in that position, I have leg room, knee room, shoulder room, and more importantly, headroom. Certainly a kudos to Acura for designing a small luxury SUV that will still fit full-size people. Now, I just mentioned the great comfort in the back seat, but really it is all about the driver because you're the one buying this little Rdx, and Acura does not short you one bit. Soft touch materials are all over this interior, and including a great dash layout. I like that Acura has always done a great job of laying out the dash to make it easy for you to use. One of the things I do love, and a lot of people are against it, is the joystick, so to speak, to control all the different systems in the car. Touchscreens are great, but fingerprints can also make it easy to not only not see what you're looking at, but make a lot of glare. One of the things I do have to make mention is the center console as well. It does house the switches for the heated seats in the front. Nice big center console that has not only this big dish area to hook up to auxiliaries such as your iPhone or iPod, it does have a nice, good, real set of cup holders and an actual center console that you can put a lot of stuff in, a little storage tray. Now, one of the things that, again, is a blend of the old and new between the first generation, second generation Rdx is the interior isn't so jagged and it's not so filled with so many different materials. They made it nice and simplistic and easy to sit in and enjoy. I love the driving position, and I do certainly love the way the controls are laid out. I do have to mention that I love the Rdx's system when it comes to real-time traffic and even having the ability to read your text messages if you have the right type of phone. Sound system is something I certainly can't test on camera, but the ELS system has always been a hit, and this thing has got a great sound stage and presence, and you can even bump the bass. More importantly, above all of this, we now have to take it for a drive. Well, I've talked about the mechanics. As always, I've talked about the internals and all the things that come with one of these new Acura Rdx's, but the most important thing is always going to be the drive. So let's get on the road, and I'll give you some impressions. Now, first thing off is it does have a standard mode in the transmission or a sport mode. As I had mentioned earlier, you can use the paddle shifters on the wheel. I usually just stick it in sport and let the transmission do its job. It's not a Formula One race car. It's just a simple SUV with the ability to change schematics on the transmission. Certainly entering or exiting the freeway, you're going to have no lack of power. All 273 horsepower are present at all times. And, you know, the thing about the Rdx is it has kind of a strange feel to it, not in a bad way, but kind of in the way that it is a small utility vehicle, and certainly it doesn't have quite the nimbleness that the first generation has. It does have a lot more of a structured feel to it. You don't feel bumps or bruises in this like the little 4-cylinder models that they used to have. It certainly has performance with 273 horsepower. I mean, passing power is, it will willingly rev right to 7,000 RPMs, just like that. And now I'm going a little over the speed limit, so I'm going to use the very firm and well put together brake system. I've got to tell you that there's a lot of cars out there that you could buy for $40,000. There's a lot of small SUVs. Acura has, of course, the RDX. Lexus, Cadillac, so many others have a car for this market, also for this price range. So you have to be kind of weary about what really gets your motor revving when you buy a small SUV. Do you really need off-road capability? Well, if you do, this isn't the one for you. This can do just about anything, get you to the ski slopes, but it's certainly not going to go off-roading, so to speak. Is it a luxury vehicle by pure standards? Well, no, then it would be a car, a sedan. Maybe even if you wanted to buy an Acura, then you'd buy their TL. But it's being able to do a lot of things. We joke with people sometimes, both my friends and in the car business, being a jack of all trades, but a master of none. That's not always a bad thing. Something like this RDX truly is a jack of all trades. Has it mastered any one vertical segment that a buyer will obviously say, that's the car I have to own? I don't think so. But what I will tell you is Acura has come up with a complete package that gives you safety, gives you performance, gives you comfort and convenience items that are, the depth chart is 2 pages long, but will also make you have a great drive. Fun to drive, I won't say that. A great drive, a road-going car, I will. Now, before we get started looking at the 2014 Honda Odyssey minivan, and it is the Elite version, don't start boiling the tar, don't start accumulating the feathers, and certainly don't look to burn my man card. I know that I love hot rods and I know that I love horsepower, but I'm a regular everyday guy, and you're out there wondering, why do I love a minivan? There's so many reasons to not fall in love with the brand new 2014 Honda Odyssey minivan. From its inside amenities to the way it drives, to comfort and convenience and everything you can do, it's short of a miracle why everybody doesn't want this thing. Now, like I said, don't get the noose ready yet. Let me have a chance to explain. My review starts right now. The back of the Odyssey, because you know what, a lot of people like to make fun of people being soccer moms. Well, guess what, I'm a soccer dad. These are my shoes. This is my U18 girls soccer bag, my chairs, everything, even an extension cord for some of the yard tools I had back here. Tons of storage. And guess what, if everybody gets dirty, all I gotta do is grab my handy dandy vacuum that's built in and suck everybody's dirt right off of them. I tell you what, it doesn't get much better than being able to make the mess and then clean it up yourself. First thing we're going to talk about when we get inside the Honda Odyssey is this back row. Very easily accessible by the design of the middle row seats, but you have outlets for both your cell phone power, even 110 power, and this is where you would plug in your PlayStation or your Xbox, which brings us to the middle row and watching a movie. Now we're in the middle seat. This is where my daughter spent all her time in this thing. She absolutely adores it for good reason. This widescreen, ultra-wide rear entertainment system put together by Honda not only is great for movies, yes, I'm watching The Croods, trademark infringement not included, but it's a system where I could play a video game on one side, like I mentioned, your PlayStation or your Xbox, put on my headphones, and you can listen to it that separately. Then, of course, on the other side of the screen, a daughter or a second kid or a second pair of kids could watch the movie they want. And, of course, what TV is not included without a remote? Before we even get on the road from the front seat, I got to tell you about everything that's cool in the front area of the Honda Odyssey, because if I try to do it when I'm driving, I'm going to end up wrecking this thing. Now, you start with this huge cavernous center console, 4 big cup holders, so much area in here. I got phone, my iPhone, I got all my goodies, my water bottle, all my paperwork, including even my GoPro camera sitting in there. Then you move down here a little bit lower, a cool box to keep things cool. Your rear DVD player, this is where you would put in your movie. You have an auxiliary output on a 1/4-inch jack, a regular output for your cell phone charger. You have a USB port if you want to plug in your iPhone or maybe a Samsung Galaxy like I have. And then, of course, you move up to the controls for the audio. You have several different audio sources. You have FM, AM, XM, CD, rear DVD, HD radio, of course USB and your iPod hookups like I talked about. Then you move up from there to the HVAC controls. And the beauty of HVAC controls when they're simple is just that. Stop overcomplicating them out there. Some of the manufacturers, I've made a big complaint about trying to make it too hard or too fancy. It's real simple. I have a dial, it's cold and hot. I have a fan, it's on and off. Kudos to Honda to making this vehicle so easy, and it has 3 different zones for HVAC, but making it so you can control it real easily from one area. Then you move up to the traffic control system in the DVD system, in the navigation. Map guidance, traffic incidents, and even real-time traffic make it easy so you'll maybe not get caught up on the highway. Last but not least, you have little goodies up here, of course, a big power moonroof, and even a little mirror. As you can see, I'm watching my camera guy film me through the little I'm watching what you're doing mirror. And if you got 4 or 5 kids in the back of this, this is godsend. Now, after all that, I got to take you out on a drive. Before I get on the drive, I do want to make one mention. All of those cool systems I just talked about, just about any of those controls are available on the wheel and to my left to open and close both rear and both side power doors. So the one last thing, let's go for a drive. Now, I've taken a lot of flack over the last week I've spent with this Honda Odyssey because most people that know me, you know, I'm a 6'2", 275-pound ruffian who loves hot rods and horsepower, doing burnouts and driving like a maniac. But the funny part is about this little minivan is I can't help but like it. It drives great. It has great dynamics. It's not a sports car, don't get me wrong. But as far as being able to go through traffic, go on a road trip, I mean, really, you could not find a better car. It has 248 horsepower. It gets about 25 miles a gallon of gas. It does everything you'd ever want it to do, minus maybe tow a small trailer. I tell you what, Honda, you make this thing tow 2,500 pounds, and I wonder what everybody's going to do when they stop buying Suburbans. Because if you look at the way that trends go, this is something I find very interesting. 25 years ago, you couldn't give away a station wagon. Nobody wanted a station wagon whatsoever. That was the geek mobile. That was the old lady mobile. Nobody wanted anything to do with them. Now, guess what? Not only in the hot rod industry, but in the vintage or even kind of that so-called hipster type thing, everybody wants a station wagon all of a sudden. So let me ask you something. In the future, is this going to be the wagon in 25 years? Is this what everybody's going to want to drive in 25 years? Well, I'll be about 68 years old, and I'll tell everybody, look back on those old DVDs. Look back on those old reviews I did. And I told you in 2013 that minivans were cool. All right, I probably shouldn't be doing this, but one of the things that if you have to have just a little bit of fun with your minivan, you know, yeah, it's not a NHRA dragster, but I tell you what, with 248 horsepower, and if you accidentally turn the traction control off, you might be able to do something like this. Now, the funny thing about Kia is we kind of made fun of them in the car business years ago when they first started importing cars into the United States. They were tinny, a lot of road noise, and really weren't built all that well. Well, things have changed because this car behind me has flat blown me away. Content, value, and everything you'd want in a small vehicle. And guess what? It's under 21 grand. Let's take a peek. Under the hood, you'll find this, a 1.6-liter four-cylinder, backed by a 6-speed automatic transmission that does have paddle shifters and the ability to sport shift. The great thing about this is the value and the content that I will continue to push on this review. I don't even know how much horsepower this thing has. I do know this. It's rated at 28 and 36 for miles per gallon, and I've gotten about 29 while I've been driving it in the eco mode that's available on the transmission. When we talk about safety, you also have a whole plethora of great additives into this vehicle to make it a great buy. Active vehicle management systems such as traction control, vehicle stability, ABS brakes, and everything that comes together to one more time say it. Its value and its content, and this little car has it. All right, before I have you jump in the front seat and take a drive with me, I want you to jump in the back. If you can imagine that this is certainly not Grandpa's Country Squire wagon, but even at 6'2" and an undisclosed weight, I can even get comfortable in the back of this little Kia. One last thing I forgot to mention is you also have a keyless remote system and push button start. It's time to get on the road. Now, I will not say it enough. This little car has just kept surprising me. Everything from comfort level to build quality to the way it drives just keeps kind of surprising me over and over. I have really kind of written off Kia for years because, like I said when we started this little journey, the first Kias that I ever drove, well, I hate to say this, and I'm sorry to the guys at Kia, but they were piles of junk. Now, this little car is completely the other direction. Now, sure, if you were going to buy this car and I told you what was the one thing I would do to it if I had a chance, well, I'd buy about $500 worth of sound deadening and pull up the carpet and make this a little quieter car. But if that's the only thing I have to complain about, well, then it kind of shows you how much I like this little Kia. Now, one thing is going to be a little different when I drive these things is eco mode. I don't push eco mode. Paddle shifters, I'm going to use those and I'm going to rev the motor probably a little more than I'm supposed to. But the reality is this is a little car that has a great balance of performance, I said performance, and comfortable driving. No, this is not a rocket ship. Don't go out drag racing and don't pick a fight with a car that's got a big motor. But when you're looking at cars that are fun to drive with a balance of miles per gallon and everyday usability, the little Kia has definitely got 5 stars in my book. Now, there is competitors out there that have more goodies and as far as more price, but I really don't think you're going to find a lot of cars out there that can really hang with this little Kia when it comes to value and content. Cruising along, really, you get a great sense of what this car is versus all of its competitors. When you look at the value and the content, which I've been pumping this whole review, you're going to find out that the drive is just as comparable to anything out there. But when you look at just the overall feel of the car, I'm comfortable in the car, everything, all the controls and everything that's in the car falls readily at hand. Heated seats work great, AC blows cold as ice, it does everything it's supposed to do. The difference is it does everything it's supposed to do for about $7,000 to maybe $9,000 less than its competitors. And that is why Kia is selling cars hand over fist. One last thing I happen to mention.
Where's the microphone at?
Oh, how's that? It's in my crotch. Smells like Bigfoot's dick.